All right, so eRx and EPCS. So you can see here we have our eRx core features. Some of the things you can create a new prescription, which is sending a prescription electronically from the EHR through the pharmacy system, and that's using Sure Scripts. You can also renew and change prescriptions that have been sent. You can cancel your prescriptions, so you can notify the pharmacy to cancel a previously sent prescription. You can fill a prescription, and you'll also have an indicator that will set and alter notification types to fill statuses on those notifications. You can see here the controlled substances will be processed by the EPCS enabled users. So a little bit different process. Essentially, the EPCS is just for the controlled substances. We have our eRx enhanced care features. So this will give you real-time access to more comprehensive and clean medication data history from the past medical history in pharmacies across the nation, the patient eligibility and formality, the patient's eligibility details and formulary status for the drugs being prescribed can be seen in the flow of the prescription. The patient-specific medication cost is a powerful new way to identify therapeutic alternatives that could be more affordable for your patients. We have our electronic prior authorization, which allows you to identify and quickly process prior authorizations at the point of care when you're with your patients. And we also have the prescription drug monitoring program, which allows you to connect to each state's PMP portal via an integration with APRIS, which we'll be going over. So first we have our patient medication history. So here in the patient's file, you'll see we're in Perseus Abingdon file. Under medications, we can see all of their medication history. So you can see up there, it'll say the RX history was fetched from this date, and you'll be able to view the actual prescriptions and all the information that is associated with them. This is also where you can see here, this is under the SureScripts RX history tab up here. Under Charm EHR, this is where you can see everything that you have prescribed. Or if the patient has filled out a questionnaire with the medications widget in there, those will also populate under the Charm EHR source. And this is where you can add medications or prescriptions, the difference being the adding a prescription, you're actually prescribing that. Adding a medication is essentially the same thing, but something that they may be taking outside of your care or from a different provider. So we have the new prescription walkthrough. So we'll go over patient eligibility, formality, patient-specific medication costs, signing an e-prescribing, a controlled prescription, the eRx sent view, canceling prescriptions, and filling the RX fill and the fill indicator. So I'm just going to play this video. So right now we're going into an actual encounter, and under recommendations, you can go under the prescriptions tab and click the drug eligibility tab. And once this pulls up, you'll be pulled the eligibility details from the different benefit plans that are attached in the patient information. When you're adding a prescription, you can hit the add prescription button. And this is where you can search, prescribe, and you'll see that it will bring up the eligibility plans that are available that are pulled from the patient's insurance information. So you will be able to select that and go ahead and hit proceed. And you can see in this one, there's no coverage information available for that. And when you hit proceed, you'll see over on the left-hand side is going to be all of your dosage and the directions. This is where those templates will come in that we'll go over earlier, rather than filling this out manually for each of your patients. If you have a recurring or a common prescription that you give out, you can essentially preset these directions. And once those are set, you can select the pharmacy. Preferred pharmacies can be selected for that patient. My apologies, this is going a little fast. The pharmacies here, you can see you can set these as a preferred pharmacy, or if a preferred pharmacy is already set in the patient's information under their patient details section, you can just select set as preferred pharmacy. You can see this is a controlled substance. And so this ready to sign checkbox will need to be selected. So now you can see we have the pricing details in the pharmacy, and you can click under the coverage and hit show, and it would pull up that information. So not. All right, so at this point, you can hit add and sign. And when prescribing controlled substances, first you'll be going and you'll put in your Charm password. You'll have a hard token and a soft token. A hard token will be sent to you. It's a little keychain. And your soft token will actually be an app on your phone, the Authy app. And these will generate a 6-digit code that will be valid for 20 seconds. So every time you're going to be prescribing, you'll type in the Charm password, choose your token, and then enter in that 6-digit code. Once that code's entered, you can select a refill indicator and hit send, and that will be transmitted to the pharmacy. If you need to cancel it, of course, you can just hit that cancel button. And then once you can check your eRx sent. So this is where you would go if you want to make sure that everything is sent. You can see that there's confirmed, queued. There are different statuses, but you can see this one was confirmed by the pharmacy. And this one's changing the fill indicator to autofill. And now you can also cancel them from here. This is how you can check whether or not the eRx was actually transmitted to the pharmacy here under the prescriptions tab. Here's some other thing here. If you have pharmacy requests or RX fill requests directly from the patient, you can essentially use that prescriptions tab to look at a general overview of all of your prescriptions. So now we're going to add compounding drugs with ingredients. So sometimes if you're having a compounded drug, many of the compounding pharmacies, they essentially will need for you to add an NDC code and the CSA. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit the RX button, and down here you can see add a new custom drug. And so here you can also use this for other things like what was it? Like crutches or something like that. Anything that you can put in here under compounded, you can switch these to like medical supplies or something. So here we're going to put our own drug name, which is the Magic Mouthwash. And then below here, you can see you'll have the trade name, the strength, et cetera, et cetera. Now for e-prescription, CSA is mandatory, and you can select the schedule and add the NDC. Well, when you go down to the ingredients, you can put your ingredients here, and you'll select it from the database. It will automatically pull the NDC number and the DEA schedule. And so you can create your own ingredients, or not rather ingredients, but your own combination of ingredients for your custom drug. Many compounded drugs also can just be searched via the ingredients. So rather having to recreate the compounding, all of the compounding ingredients, they'll essentially be in one group, and it will pull that NDC number. Now, once the NDC number and the DEA schedule is there, you can hit add and sign, and then go ahead normally. So when it comes to pharmacy requests, We're going to go again under the prescription tab. And under the tab here, we can see pharmacy requests. These will be sent from the pharmacy. And usually it can be a change in prescription or a refill or something like that. You can click on it and see the requested medications. You can add notes. You can select actions, whether you want to approve it, deny it, or add a new prescription. And if it is denied, you can give a reason for that denial. So once it is approved, you can select the process button and you can see other information on what you need to do. So for instance, this one, you would need the prior authorization added. You can view the prescribed medications here, the prescriber, the pharmacy, the refill quantity. And again, you can approve, deny, replace, add some notes to the pharmacy, and then select your RX fill indicator. And then you can sign and renew those. And the patient will then be able to go right to the pharmacy and pick up their prescriptions. So again, the Schedule II controlled substances cannot be refilled. You will need to create a new prescription, essentially. You'll need to re-prescribe that. So there you would just hit renew, fill in the information, hit ready to sign, select add and sign, and again, go through the two-factor authentication with your Charm password and the 6-digit OTP that is generated from your soft token or your hard token. So again, you can configure agents and supervisors. So essentially this, if a supervisor, we have an agent first. The agent can transmit signed and non-controlled drugs and process refill requests. So essentially providers here, you will need to essentially write the prescription and sign off on it. But once it is signed, or a refill request comes in, you can designate someone in your practice as your agent. And this is done from your profile page in your settings. And essentially what you can do is you can walk through, fill in and sign a bunch of prescriptions, and then your agent can go in there and transmit all of the signed prescriptions again. And the supervisor is essentially the other side of the coin of the agent. So if somebody is marked as a supervisor, the agent can be configuring these, and the supervisor's information will be sent as part of the e-script. So essentially if you have an overseeing doctor or the actual provider that's prescribing the medication, their name would pop up rather than the agent's, even though the agent configured it. The supervisor would sign off on that. So we have electronic prior authorization, EPA. So you can see number one, as soon as you select the medication, you'll get a notice whether or not you need prior authorization. If the prescription does require prior authorization, you can answer a few questions directly in the EHR and process it on the spot. Approval usually takes about a minute, after which the route of your approved prescription to pharmacy. Your patient will arrive at the pharmacy and pick up the prescription and start his medication or her medication. And with no modification requests, no frustrating back and forth phone calls. So you can see here, once you're linked up and you're filling out, you'll just check off that initiate electronic prior authorization. Processing prior authorization forms electronically. So again, when you're in that prescription, you can see up here the RX holding queue in the EPA work list. When you click on this, it'll have a list of your patients, and you would just hit the 3 dots and select process PA. You'll have the form here that you can fill out, and you'll fill that out and just hit submit, and it will be sent off directly from the EHR. So you can assigning roles to for assigning roles to your staff. EPA follow-up activities can be performed by the prescriber or by authorized representatives. The roles for day-to-day activities on EPA forms, we have the submitter that can create, read, edit, and submit permissions. The reviewer, who essentially only has read-only permissions. They can't change anything, however, they are able to view that information. And then the preparer, who can create, read, and edit those permissions for the other users. So we do have a PDMP interface. And this is an interface with APRIS, and APRIS connects to all of the different states' PMP databases. So once you are integrated with APRIS, and when it comes to APRIS, it is a one-time $100 fee for each provider. Now, there may be additional fees for the PMP itself. For instance, California does not have state funding for that. However, right on the APRIS's website, you can, if the state does provide it, such as North Carolina, you can essentially ask for state funding for that. And that's all done from the APRIS website. So it supports the PMP for 40 states. There's no need to log into the portal itself. This can all be done from Charm. When it comes to APRIS, so yeah, it only works for the 40 states. When you go to their website, it will have a list of those. And it will have a list for the states that offer state funding as well. And you can ask for that funding on that website. So for it to be useful, so again, I mentioned it's $100 for the integration into APRIS, and then in the APRIS gateway as well, where you're actually set up the links to each of the states that you'd like to connect to. So it is very useful if you are going to be in multiple states or you have providers or patients that are in multiple states. It would be very helpful. Again, it's really useful to go into and just pull up your state's PMP directly from Charm as well. And so essentially what you're going to do, and I'm just going to head back here, when you're in the recommendations section and you are linked, you'll hit this PMP button right there. And so it'll pull up the report, and you're going to see the risk indicators, the NARC score, the overdose risk score, the additional risk indicator. And you'll see the prescription data. So you'll be able to view all of the prescriptions and the dates that those were filled and from which providers they were sent from. And so essentially, anybody who has entered in information into that state's PMP, you will be able to view that. And in this case, you can see it's Ohio and Pennsylvania. So you can see which states were there and making sure that they're not, pharmacy shopping. So here are some references that I could put in the chat. So next, I will go over ERA enrollment. And then after this slide, then what I'll do is I'll just hop on Charm and we can answer questions right in Charm. So eRx and EPCS enrollment. So you can see electronic prescribing allows to transmit prescriptions electronically. It integrates with SureScripts for eRx service. Receive pharmacy-initiated message back to the prescriber system for renewal requests and the change requests that we saw in the previous slides. So here are eRx options. So we have two. We have the EPCS and the eRx for non-controlled substances. So you can see EPCS does include regular prescriptions as well. It does the controlled and non-controlled, whereas the eRx is only for non-controlled. The cost for EPCS is $250 per provider per year, where the eRx is there's a one-time fee of $25 for the identity proofing through Experian, and then it is $10 per month. The identity proofing for EPCS rather is done by ExoStar. The EPCS requires the two-factor authentication that we saw, the charm password and the 6-digit OTP that is generated by your soft or hard token, whereas the eRx does not require that. And they allow refills for electronically for CS drugs, except for Schedule 2. As we saw before, you'll need to re-prescribe those. And then for non-controlled, all of them are able to be electronically processed. So for the EPCS enrollment. So first, there is a DEA requirement. So 2 individuals must be in your practice in order to register for EPCS. One is the EPCS admin manager, and one is the approving DEA registrant. So the admin manager will need to be added in the system as the practice admin or an office manager. Essentially what they do is they'll go in and they'll verify the prescriber's license and authorize the prescriber, and they raise an approval request in these settings that we'll go over. Really, they will need to be in the system, and then their step in the process only takes about a minute. Now, the DEA registrant is actually going to be prescribing the controlled substances. They'll need to put in a bunch of information. They'll to go through identity proofing, including their home address, their NPI, their state license number for any state that they're going to be registered with, DEA number for any states that they're going to be prescribing in, and also their social security number. Now, all that information is just going to be stored in your profile. None of that information will ever appear on any of the forms that are generated in Charm. They're specifically for the identity proofing steps. And then essentially, once the approval is raised, you will register that token and then confirm that. So here we have the EPCS enrollment steps. So number 1 is done by the office manager. They're going to be assigned members for the EPCS admin manager and the approving DEA registrant from the EPCS manager page. And then this can also be done by the provider, but the office manager can purchase the EPCS subscription. Once that subscription is purchased, it can be associated to the prescriber. We have the EPS admin manager authorizes and verifies the prescriber's licenses, raises approval requests for the signing of controlled substances. Once that's done, the prescriber will go into the registration process and go through an ID proofing process through ExoStar to obtain second factor authentication. Usually this identity proofing step is going to be your financial information. So they're going to ask you things like, have you ever had a mortgage in this state, or choose from the states below which you've had a mortgage of. You had a car payment or a car loan in 2012. What was your average cost per month, or something like that? So they're going to ask you essentially they're credit questions, but they're used to prove your identity and this is through ExoStar again. Next is the approving DEA registrant will approve the CS request raised by the admin manager. And then finally, once that's all done, the Charm team will then enable you on the back end. So step 1, again, we'll configure the admin managers, purchase the EPCS subscription, and associate that license. And so what you'll do is first you'll need to go into the add-ons page and request the EPCS. And what that's going to do, it's going to create the EPCS subscriptions page. So first we'll go into the manager, and you can hit edit and select the admin manager and then the approving DEA registrant. Again, the admin manager is going to be the office manager, and the approving DEA registrant will be the prescriber. Then you'll go to the subscriptions page, which will appear once you request it. You'll hit plus purchase. You'll go in and select the product. So you can do multiple years, and you can also ask for multiple hard tokens, but you'll fill in the information, agree, and hit order. Once it's ordered, you can hit associate, and you'll select that doctor. And so now that subscription will be associated to that user in Charm. Step 2, again, this is going to be the admin manager. You're going to authorize and verify prescribers' licenses and raise approval requests for the CS drugs. So once you go ahead and verify those licenses, and this is just by looking at it, you'll go to the EPCS manager page, and you'll see the DEA validity. You're going to change to valid. If it's not, usually I'll say select. You'll click approve, and you'll see the approve request has been raised, or the request has been submitted by the EPCS admin manager. And that's essentially all that the office manager needs to do at this point. Step 3 is going to be by the prescriber. So you're going to go through your identity proofing to obtain the second factor authentication. And XSR has 2 ways to identity proofing: is remote proofing using knowledge-based questions. So this is the financial and personal history that they're going to ask you about. So I recommend going and you can have your credit report ready, or I've seen them ask questions going back to like 1975, depending on some. So sometimes you'll need to make a phone call. If you do fail or don't have the answers to these, you can set up a webcam proofing meeting with ExoStar. They have these every day, and you can usually get on one within the next day or 2. So to do that, you're going to go to the eRx tab. You're going to click that, and you may see at this point, if you have multiple members, it's going to be a list of all of your members, and you're going to see the 3 dots. And what you're going to do is you're going to click the 3 dots and select enable, and it will bring you to this page. Now, at the top right, we have the registration process checklist, which will walk you through and help you understand what needs to be done. So what you can do is you'll fill out this information. This mobile number will need to be the number that you're going to download that soft token app on, which is the Authy app. And you'll need to make sure that this is all correct. Once this is correct, you can hit start new registration. You'll go through, read this, hit I agree. Again, you'll need to fill out the zip code, the social security number, and resubmit your date of birth. And hit I agree, and it's going to ask you some financial questions. So you can see, what bank, according to your credit file, you open a home equity line of credit around 2017. So you're just going to fill in this information, and usually it's going to be based on your banks and like average payments and things like that. Now, once this is done, you're going to register your hardware token. Now, most of the time when you do this, you have just purchased this, and it takes some time for them to mail you out. So most of the time, you're just going to hit skip to next. And we're going to move on to the soft token registration. So here again, you'll put your country, your phone number, and your email address. You're going to hit register phone. And what it's going to do is you're going to go into that app, the Authy app that is downloaded, and it will prompt you to do that, and it's going to give you a number, and you're going to type that in as your soft OTP. You reconfirm your number and your email address, and it will link that to your app that you've downloaded, and we'll also do that. So essentially, it's going to be sending you a bunch of codes either via the app. There is also another step where it will text you a code. And essentially what you're going to do is you're just going to view that code on your phone, type it into this, and you're linking your account to the app to your phone, and to make sure that everything is linked together. Once that is all linked, then essentially you've completed the EPCS registration process. You can see that it's active. And now you'll just need to approve the CS drug signing, and then we will enable it on the back end. So for that step, we are going to approve the CS drug signing request raised by the EPCS admin manager. So now that you have linked your Authy app to your cell phone and the Authy app is linked to the subscription that you've purchased, now your phone can be used as a soft token. And so to raise the request and check to make sure that the soft token has been linked, we're going to go to the EPCS manager page here. And you can see here valid. We're going to hit manage next to CS logical access controls. And you're essentially going to be doing the exact step that you would be doing if you are prescribing, which is putting in your Charm password, selecting the token, and putting in that 6-digit code. Once that 6-digit code is entered in this step, the approval status here will go from gray to white, and it'll go from waiting for approval, and you can change it to approve. And now that you have been approved. So essentially you're confirming that your soft token has been configured. And then at this point, all you'll need to do is let us know that you've completed the registration, and we will enable it on the back end. And you'll be ready to prescribe. So the eRx service for non-controlled drugs. For this enrollment step, you'll ensure that the facility details and phone and fax are entered into the facility details. That's under settings, facility list. You can navigate to that facility, click the 3 dots, and select edit. In the prescriber's profile, you'll need the NPI, Social Security, DEA. That's really only for the controlled substances, but it doesn't hurt for the regular one. You're going to download the eRx enrollment form and sign it. This can be done again from the eRx page. You'll upload that filled form, medical license, and photo identity proof. So in this page, you'll have multiple areas you can upload these files for. Pay a one-time verification fee using the prescriber's personal credit card. So then go through the Experian identity proofing process and enter the activation code that is sent to you. So again, you'll go to settings, and then you'll go to my profile. Right here, just fill out all of your information. So again, you have your home phone, your mobile phone, your address line. Again, this will need to be your personal information, not the practice's location. When you scroll down below, you'll see your ID qualifiers. You'll have your NPI, your Social Security, your DEA. When you select the DEA, you can select the states. We're going to go back, and right here, you'll see you'll have your eRx and the EPCS option, and you'll do proceed with EPCS registration or proceed the eRx for non-controlled substances. So when you are in the non-controlled substances, right here, you can download the prescribing enrollment form. You'll have the facility, the prescriber, and you can see here your eRx enrollment form, medical license, and government issued photo ID. So this is where you're going to upload all of that info. So when you have the enrollment form here, you can download as a PDF. You'll print these out and scan them when they are filled out. I believe you can also, if you have a PDF filler or something like that, you can do that. So you can see here, you'll just upload all of these forms and hit submit. And now, thank you for submitting. Please pay the registration fee to proceed. You'll click here. You'll fill out the payment info to pay the $25 one-time fee for the verification and hit agree and pay now. So now this will go through, we'll process the payment. We'll take a look at all of your stuff, and it will be processed within the next 72 hours. And then again, you could go back to the eRx and go through the experience validation. So here you'll just go here and fill in all that. It's going to be populated from your profile. You'll hit submit. And again, it will ask you some information about your financials to confirm your identity. Now, once this is submitted, it will let you know instantly or almost instantly if you've passed or not. And then at this point, what's going to happen is they'll actually mail you a letter with the verification code. And when you get that code, you're going to change your Charm password to that code. That's mailed to you. And then once you hit update and change your password, it'll let the system know essentially that you have received that. And of course, once you are done in completing this process, you can actually change that password back to whatever you need to use. So usually when it comes to the EPCS, what you can do is reach out to your sales rep. And because sometimes it can get a little sticky, we can schedule a meeting for you and go through the process with you just to make sure that none of those steps are missed for you. All right, so I will go over generating templates, and then I think we can, if we have time, I'm happy to answer any other questions as well. So the first thing, we can go to a patient. And you can see when we go into a patient's file, we can navigate to their medications tab and hit plus prescriptions. Now, when you see the plus prescriptions page, it will go to this add prescription. And this is where you would search the database and have to fill out that. So I see right here, it says, how can I find out who our sales rep is? Usually when you sign up, you'll get a welcome email from them. If you don't know, what you can do is hop on our chat and just ask the chat to find your sales rep. They'll be able, if you just provide your email that you use to log into Charm with, they will be able to look you up, and they can have your sales rep reach out to you. Also, the support, I think the support you can also schedule with them. So whichever is the most convenient for you. Our sales reps, our support agents will be learning this process as well, if they have not already. Most of them do. But when you are in the medication sections, you can see here, you can click templates. And when you click on templates, rather than having to fill out all that information every single time, what you can do is you can pre-configure this, and then you would just check this off and hit add. So you can see that this is much faster than going through that process. So to configure these, it's just like prescribing a medication for the first time, except for you're going to be doing that in your settings. So if we go to settings here, we can go to templates and go to our my templates or practice templates. The difference is my templates will only going to be viewable to you or the current user. Practice templates are able to be viewed by everybody in the practice. What we're going to do is we're going to hit plus new template, and we're just going to go to medications, or in this case, prescriptions. So over here, we're going to hit prescription. And this is essentially can be done for all of the things, diagnosis, supplements, and things like that too. But we're going to hit proceed, and we're going to hit add items. So you can group your templates by a particular, some people will have a particular prescription and they would just like templates for each and every dosage of that. Or if you want to do something, specifically for a certain diagnosis, so you can pick and choose how you group these together, which best fits your style. But we're going to hit add items, and you can see it'll bring up the add template items. It's essentially adding a new prescription. So for instance, if we were doing like ibuprofen. We can hit search. You can do a minimum of 3 characters of the drug and hit enter or click search. So if I hit search, we can find ibuprofen 100 milligrams, and that's a children's one, or we can do like a 200 milligram capsule. So I'm going to do this one. I'm going to select add. You can pick the dosage, 2 capsules orally once a day. And let's say, I will just say with meals for the next 10 days. And so based on the dosage and the duration, it's going to automatically figure out the dispense, the capsules, and let's say we're going to allow for 2 refills. We can hit dispense as written if you want it to not change at all. And we can have the notes to pharmacy if you wanted and add any notes. And we're going to hit add. And so now that is now a selectable option when we open up this template. And so when you go into the templates and you select one of these, you can see the directions and the comments are there, but you can always edit these. So rather than doing it from scratch, you'll just be able to check this off, select the diagnosis. And this is going to be pulled from the patient's diagnoses. And then if you did need to edit any of these, you can edit them rather than filling all of these out. And so that's how our templates work. All right, so let's see. I see templates would be helpful if they didn't require you to have a separate prescription for each and every dose. So what you can do rather than creating that for each and every dose. Yeah, I see what you're saying. You can just change this dosage right here. But again, you know, you could put the template or the drug name. You could just put the name of this, but yeah, essentially you need to add every dose if you go and select from that. Now you could do a custom drug and put in whatever name you want and configure that. And when you go to the ingredients, you could put the ingredients for that. You would search the actual drug name. That DEA and the CSA would be populated so that it would be useful, but essentially it would just have this and you could change the dosage each and every time. But again, that's it depends on how you want to set it up.
Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate it. Thank you, team. And we will see you next. This is supposed to be a monthly event. So next month, our topic, I believe, is analytics. And that'll be a great way for growing your practice and seeing how your practice runs. So we will do that next month, and more details will be in your email. So stay tuned, and looking forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you so much.